Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Movies That Move We. So, we were supposed to do this last week, but Buttercup over here wasn't feeling good. How you feeling?
I feel better.
Okay, good. And I hope you guys had a great long weekend and short week. I'm all turned around because, I don't know, short weeks don't work unless you have like the Tuesday off after. Anyway, today we are discussing Love to Love You Baby, Donna Summer. It's a documentary that was done by her daughter, Brooklyn, I want to say Saldano is her last name. Mm-hmm. Forgive me if I messed that up. But yeah, her daughter produced it. And she got a whole bunch of clips of her mom talking about her life. I guess her mom did a lot of recordings about what her life was like. They shared a lot of videos, but they gave some insight to the private life of Donna Summer. I like the way they handled it because it wasn't done in a scathing way. It was really done in a way that she and her sisters could honor her mom. Why are you making that face?
I disagree. I did like the documentary. I'm not saying that. I think at first I got lost with the lack of visually seeing her family. So basically it was like, they did get a lot of clips of her and of like, just home videos, like her personal life, things like that, interviews. And I thought that was great because like when you're making a documentary, you need all that content. But I just didn't like how, I feel like in a lot of documentaries, like when they do it on somebody, you actually kind of get to see like a view of the family member or a friend or whatever, and it's like in an interview kind of setting. It was like, this wasn't like that. It's very much like basically, yeah, it's like, it's just, you see her, I believe it's her second daughter. You see her second daughter kind of going through all her stuff. You see clips like that, but it's like you don't see her other daughters. You don't see her husband like that. It's like you see them in clips, but it's not like you're actually sitting down and kind of getting to know them and getting to know Donna Summers through them. And I wish that they kind of could have made it a little bit more personable in that way. I think maybe they were trying to get you to connect more with Donna Summers, but I feel like even so, it's like we connected with her through TV, music, all of that. But it's like, y'all are the people that knew her. So I would have liked to actually have that interaction with like a family member to kind of hear them a little bit more.
But I think some of that may have been also the family's
overall
need for privacy, because like I think a couple of her sisters did interviews or talked about Donna Summer, but maybe they want to keep their private life private. And heck, that's one of the things the documentary pointed out, that Donna Summer was really private. And I don't know, I mean, I was between the ages of newborn and 7 or 8 when her music was really hot, and I don't remember hearing a whole lot about her. There was no, in the news, Donna Summer the police were called to Donna Summer's house because of a domestic violence situation, more at 6. There wasn't anything like that I recall. It was her music. She had some songs that made people kind of go, wait a minute, what? Did she just really sing or say that? And, it was that, but that was kind of the limit that you heard about her. You saw her perform, you heard her music, that was it. I didn't know she had any children or how many children she had until Brooklyn was on My Wife and Kids.
Yeah, didn't she play Junior's girlfriend?
Vanessa.
I was like sitting there, I was like, I know I remember her from something, but then I was like, wait. But no, it actually wasn't until Donna Summers passed away that I realized who her kids were. And that's the one sibling that I do, or the one child that I actually like remember.
Yeah.
But and that's what I'm saying. I would have liked to kind of, which we did a little bit. We did get visuals of them, but I would have just liked to get to know them more, because it's like we don't really know anything about her kids. We don't know what their interaction was like with her or anything. That's why I wish we got a little bit more personal. Even her husband, like, it was kind of like he was there to answer questions and then he went home. Like,
but that's kind of where I say they really focused it in on her. Like, one of the things that Donna Summer talked about is when she had her first child. It was like at the start of her career, she had great success in Europe with her music career and her acting and stuff like that. Like, I didn't know she got started in theater. One of her first opportunities was performing in Hair, the musical on stage, which I'll come back around to that a little later. But she had her first daughter while she was in Germany, and she said she felt disconnected. That's the phrase she used. Her daughters didn't clarify and say, oh yeah, mom had postpartum. I don't know how much postpartum was talked about in the late 60s, early 70s. I don't know. But she said she was disconnecting. You know, things weren't going well with her and her first daughter's father. I think her first daughter is Mimi. Things weren't going well with them, and so she broke loose, brought her kid back, and let her parents take care of her daughter. And she went back on the road because she's like, I like what I'm doing. I want to keep doing it, but I can't do it and have a kid in tow, and I don't feel motherly. And she said around that time she called it manic depression. Don't know if she was diagnosed with that, but that's how she felt at the time. And so she went on with her career. And I think the thing that any of her daughters avoided saying was, you know, I felt like she was an absent mom, or there was a point in time where she wasn't really connecting with us. We felt abandoned. And this is why I say they handled things delicately and respectfully. But it goes in, I think it balanced equally. It paralleled her music to points in her life, which I like because those were all the songs I grew up with. So it was like, oh yeah, I remember this song. Like we were talking about, what's the one that you like? Let's Dance.
On the radio?
No, on the radio. So I was telling her that when I was a kid and that song would come on, I like when she was doing the, oh, on the radio, I'd be twirling around with the Donna Summer hair. But I can also see where she influenced other artists. So like in the beginning, they started with a video clip of Love to Love You, where she's singing very sensually and she's gyrating on the microphone and she's just completely in character and giving all the sexy to the song that she can. And so I mentioned to you, you know what? I bet you she was an influence on Jill Scott. Because Jill Scott, well, hey, go all the way. A few years ago, you remember the thing with the mic. If you don't, look it up. Jill Scott microphone. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. But you can see on the sensual side where she may have influenced somebody like Jill Scott, and on the theatrical side where she may have influenced somebody like Nicki Minaj as far as musical style and how they perform. What do you think?
I don't know. I definitely, so the two people that I really, really heard like verbatim from those two artists themselves that they really, I guess, looked up to her and they really studied her a lot was Beyonce and Selena. And I can really see that because performance wise, both of them were like really, really, really like big performers in the sense of like how they carried out their shows. It kind of started from, and Donna Summer's, you know, she always kind of did herself with like a storyline or with like a kind of like she's gonna tell you something before she performs, or she's gonna kind of give you some insight. I feel like Beyonce does that in a lot of her shows. I feel like Selena did the whole like mixing up different music from like the 70s, and then even with her stuff and the Spanish culture, like she did that. So I feel like, and even I can even say even all the sparkly stuff and everything, like they got that from her, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, Beyonce did the whole album cover.
Like hers.
It wasn't Birthday. I think it was the one before.
It was
Birthday.
it was her first one. I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah, where she was kind of posed like this, and then she had the beaded. It wasn't beaded. It was like crystal.
And that's where
top.
she sampled one of Donna Summer's songs. The Live to yeah, I think that was the album she sampled that song off of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you see the influence in other places. She was one of the first artists, I think, that kind of slid out of the disco era and more into, I guess, early club music thing, where she had that kind of digital sound. And I'm not talking about today digital sound. I'm talking about early 80s digital, which sounds totally different. But she did that with, what song was that? Love to Love You, where it had that that kind of sound to it.
Like the electronic kind of sound?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the electronic handheld game from way back in the day. But she kind of brought that electronic sound. She still paired it with the sensual thing. It was just a whole new sound for the time. She kind of moved disco forward a little bit. And speaking of disco, they called her the disco queen because she had, dance music. I was telling Zenny that back then they used to release singles on the big records. They had the big records and they had the little records, but you could get a larger, I think those were the 33s, I think, the larger records, and that whole one side, the entire A side and the entire B side would be one song. And yes, it would go on for 10 minutes, sometimes longer. And I think that's what they were saying they did with Love to Love You. They had just a 20-minute version of it, and it would just go on repeat, and it was a hit at the clubs. What else did they talk about with her?
Also, around that time when she was like doing, because it's Pride Month. Yeah, so it's Pride Month, shout out to the LGBT. But around that time, like, they were actually they kind of like put her on the map in a way, because a lot of them,
that was a popular song in their club.
Yeah, like that was like a thing. And I even will go as far as like, even in drag to this day, it's like I feel like a lot of them will like imitate people like her, like Donna Summers, Tina Turner, who else? Madonna, like all the big name artists like that. I feel like, they also kind of include her music into a lot of things. I thought it was interesting though, in the documentary, how things kind of shifted for her when it went into the gay community, because it's like when she first came out, she was like, they worshipped her pretty much.
Right.
But then it was like, I guess she come out with a song or something like that.
It was, I guess, I hate to say it was towards the end of her career, because I don't think her career necessarily ended. But it was like that regular transition from where you see them all the time to where you don't. And she was kind of reevaluating where she wanted to be. Did she really want to perform so heavy, or did she want more time with her family? And around that time, she got saved, gave her life to Christ. For those of you who might be like, what do you mean saved from what? She got saved, and she did an interview, and I believe she said, there's only Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And that was included in the interview, and then they went and added stuff to it, I guess. And of course, the gay community was upset with that. They were like, how dare you? We made you, and this is how you're going to treat us? Absolutely not. We're not having it. And she actually had to go out and make a statement. I don't know if you want to call it a retraction or a correction, but she had to make a statement and say the things that were printed in that article cannot be attributed to me because I never said them. So I don't know if that rift was necessarily healed between her and the gay community at the time.
Yeah, that's what I always wonder, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
because I can't say that I've heard, not like I go to gay clubs or anything like that.
mm-hmm.
I don't go to clubs at all. Too many people. But I don't know if I haven't heard anyone say, "Oh yes, I love Donna Summer. She was a diva who is from the gay community." So I don't know if
that's what I was saying. Like, I don't know. I feel like I get mixed things about it. It's like sometimes I feel like people worship her still, but then there's people that are kind of like, I just haven't heard anything at all, so I don't know.
Yeah. So there was that. She hit a few first during her career. She was Geffen Records' first artist. So yeah, she got them off on a good foot. So far as I know, they're still around. I don't follow labels and stuff like that.
I haven't heard of that label.
It's like,
did you find out like what artists are under them now?
I think at one point, I want to say at one point Mariah Carey was under them. I don't know if she still is.
Oh, okay.
But that's the first person who comes to mind. But they were pretty big. They were like RCA and a few others. I guess Rhino, a few other record companies at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But she was their first artist, and she was one of the first Black women to have a video played on MTV when MTV actually played music. So yeah, those were some of her first. But wrapping back around to the theatrical thing, I didn't know that she started in the theater. And as I was watching the documentary and then listening to the music again for the first time in a long time, I was like, you know what? That makes sense because you like she said, she didn't always want to sound the same way every single time. She wanted people to really get in the music and not even pay attention to, oh, that's Donna Summer, or if they did, be like,
they were
wow,
like shocked or whatever.
She sounds so different. But she really added that theatrical sense through the performance, the style of singing. If you listen to any of her music and think in terms of what the music sounds like, you could put that music in a Broadway show and it would fit because that was just her style. The thing that I found curious, well, not curious, interesting, she came from a church background. She started singing in church. One of her inspirations was Mahalia Jackson. And when she started performing publicly, her family completely supported her. Now, her mother was like, when she heard Love to Love You, her mother was like, I can't go back to church. Yeah. But at the same time, when, you know, they would have company over and they'd be like, oh yeah, my daughter is the Donna Summer. And they were like, no way. They'd call her up, they'd play the music, and she'd come out and be like, yeah, that's me on the thing. So it's like you got to see all sides of her, and you could believe once you saw the video and heard her talk about it, you could really believe, yeah, I can hear her belting out Swing Low Sweet Chariot, because she did have that power in her voice, but at the same time she could slide off into the more sensual stuff. In her latter years, when she decided, okay, I'm retiring from music, essentially, she decided to shift her creativity to art. And one of the things that she said, because she went through, not only did she go through the bad relationships, physical abuse, she talked about, gosh, I can't even say the word. She talked about being abused by a priest. I'll say it that way, or a pastor when she was younger. All of those things that happened before her career, during her career. Some of her producers were basically trying to cut her out of her money, and she was like, I ain't having that. And she put up a fight and won. But by the time she was ready to retire, she was like, you know what? I want to create something that absolutely belongs to me. Nobody else can take a claim to it. And she actually started painting and selling her work.
And that I didn't know that at all.
I didn't know that. Like I said, there were a lot of little things that I learned about her through the documentary. And again, it's not like I was spending my life going, I wonder this about Donna Summer, or I wonder that about Donna Summer. You didn't have to wonder, because she kept her life private, very private, and she was all about the music. So when you heard the music, you were like, that's Donna Summer. I like that. Let me get my groove onto it. And that was it. You didn't hear of anything in the background of her life. We disagree on this, but again, I'll say I like the way the documentary was handled, because it honored their mom. It honored their mom. It didn't paint this picture that, you know, she was in conflict with being a parent. As a matter of fact, it highlighted that she tried her best to be present for her kids, and when she was not on tour or not away performing, she tried to create some experiences from them, even to the point of where they lived. It was kind of obscure. It wasn't a big Hollywood thing. It was wide open land where they could play privately, and she didn't have to be Donna Summer. You know, she could just be mom, she could be wife, and have a peaceful space for them and herself. So overall, I definitely recommend, check it out. If you haven't already, it's on, I was about to say HBO Max. They done changed their name to just Max. So you can check it out there. This was released, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago. So go on over to Max, take a watch. Leave your comments below. If there's something you do that they didn't necessarily cover, go ahead, let's talk about it, or talk about what you thought. Where were you when you first heard her music, and how did it influence you? So that's all I have for today. What do you think?
I thought I would give it a 9 out of 10. The only reason I'm saying taking 1 point away is just because, again, like, I just wanted to see more of like her family and everything like that. But I don't think they did it wrong or anything. I don't think like it was done. I think it was done nicely. Like, you know, it even showed like a more personable side of her, because we see her as a performer, but it also showed like the goofy side of her, the artist in her, the fun-loving mom. Like, it showed all of that. So I think they did honor her in a good way. Like, I don't think that was the case. It was just, I wanted to see more family. That was all.
Maybe there'll be a follow-up for you. But anyway, thanks so much for joining us today. It's June, so we have one more actual review to do for you, and then the end of the month, we'll go ahead and be honoring our founder, Don Mescal, for his birthday during the last 2 weeks of June. So until next week, people, thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you next time.
All right, see ya.
Bye.